So I wanted to talk about Mars in the birth chart because Mars is it's a big influence in our chart. It's actually a personal planet, but it's the red planet in our solar system. And when you think about the color red, Mars in astrology symbolizes pretty much everything that red symbolizes. So you could think of anger, rage, aggression, passion, sexuality, drive, your physicality, how you use your energy, how you compete, how you protect, your purpose and willpower. Everything fiery, Mars rules. And wherever you have Mars in your birth chart, you know, what sign is really the style of your Mars, and the house is really the area in your life that Mars will really manifest. So I wanted to give an example with my life because if any of you know, I love telling stories, and I think stories are the best way to really capture the essence of energy in the birth chart. I have my Mars in the 11th house. It's actually a degree away from the 12th house, so technically it's straddling both houses. But I do relate to both of them, even though I do feel like it's a little bit more the 12th house than the 11th. But with the 12th house is the house of the hidden. And any placements that are in the 12th house, they really have a hard time tapping into that energy, especially earlier in your life, because it's in the house of the hidden. And with my Mars being in the 12th house, I had a really, oh, here's my kitty cat, Mishina. I had a really hard time tapping into my fight as a kid, being able to defend myself and being able to, you know, just stand up for myself. You know, I'm a Libra, and so Mars's energy is so opposite from Libra, since Libra is Venus ruled. And so I had I was naturally like this really sweet, innocent kid. And I felt that when I was growing up, especially during my teenage years, people saw this innocence in me and they knew that they could take advantage of that. And so I was bullied a lot. I was mentally bullied. I was physically bullied. And I wasn't able to defend myself. And I was always really hard on myself. I didn't understand why I couldn't defend myself in certain situations. But my first real Mars experience where I felt like my courage came out, I remember I was 18 years old and I was on the bus. And it was a really big bus. There was a good 30, 40 people on this bus. And they were like these high school kids that are all the way in the back of the bus. And they were jumping this old man, like he was like 75 years old or something. And I'm looking, and then I start looking around the bus to see if anyone's going to do anything. And no one is paying attention to it. And, you know, there's either people looking down, or they're looking to the side, or they're pretending that it's not happening when it's clearly happening. I could hear it. It's loud. So anyway, I couldn't just sit there and not do something about it. So I go to the back of the bus. And, I just see them wailing on this guy. And so I go ahead and I put my body between this old man and a lot of the high school kids. And, this man doesn't want to get saved by an 18-year-old kid. So he tries to elbow me. And I back off. And so I'm in my head, the next thing that I do, I'm over here yelling at them to stop, like I'm their mother or something. But they all stop in their tracks. They stop beating up on him. Everybody's like, huh? They were just shocked that I was yelling at them. And then I was shocked because they were shocked. And it was just really bizarre. But they ended up stopping. They didn't beat up on him anymore. And the guy gets off the bus and everyone goes on with their day like nothing ever happened. Really funny. But, so I get off the bus and I'm going home, and I was really proud of myself. I couldn't help but feel proud of myself for doing that. And I couldn't wait to tell my dad about it. And so I get home and I tell him. And then he starts yelling at me for doing something. Like he said, it was the stupidest thing I could have done. I could have hurt myself, blah, 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 blah. And I remember thinking, you know what? I wouldn't have been able to look at myself in the mirror, you know, if I didn't do something and something would have happened to him. So, you know, I felt what I did was right, and regardless of what my dad said. But that was a very Mars in the 12th house experience, because when you think of the 12th house, it's the house of the hidden, the house of those that aren't seen, the house of those that can't defend themselves. And I stepped in there and helped this man when no one else saw him. I was the only one in the bus that saw him and wanted to do something. So yeah, that was my first big Mars experience, and it was empowering. I remember feeling really good about doing that. But then another experience that actually just happened recently, and it was an 11th house Mars experience. When you think of the 11th house is the house of friends and like-minded people. And last year I went on an astrology retreat in Barcelona. And so when you think of going to an astrology retreat, I have a passion for astrology, and everyone going has the same passion. So that's, you know, like-minded people. It was a very 11th house trip for me. But I go on this trip and made some amazing soul connections. You know, we're like a group of 6 of us, and we had some really great ties. Like, they were true soul connections. We would go and we would learn different topics on astrology during the day, and at night we'd be partying up in Barcelona. We were having the time of our lives, because Barcelona is magic at nighttime, because the streets come alive. Everybody comes out. There's so much energy. It's almost electric. You could feel it. But when it gets really late, it gets very dark and gloomy and sketchy, because the way that Barcelona was built, it was kind of built to be a maze for people who aren't familiar with the city. And so you have these really tall buildings, and they cast these shadows. And so everything is very like dark and lurky and mysterious. And there are a lot of instances where there's crime, you know, towards travelers or tourists, you know, just pickpocketing and stuff like that. But, you know, I was always getting told, be careful, don't go alone, or don't go here, don't go there. There seemed to be something going on in that city that was a little sketchy. But anyway, I think on our last night, we make the most of that night, and we get back really late. I think it's like, you know, 3 or 4 in the morning. We're walking back, and I'm with my friends, and they wanted to walk me to my Airbnb because, you know, they were 2 and I was 1. So they start walking me. They walk me to my Airbnb, and out of the shadows comes this man, and you see his body language, and he looks like a lurker, and he's just, you know, he's whispering something in Spanish, and we can't really hear what he's saying, but it just, everything about it was just sketchy and dark. And I just remember this fire coming out of my chest, and, you know, feeling like this protective energy towards my friends. And so, you know, if you were to look at me, I was like dressed really girly. You know, I have wedges on and like my bell bottoms. I have this little crop top, but I'm over here acting like, I don't know, I'm the protector of the group. And I come in and I go in the middle. Again, I put my body in the middle of my 2 friends and him that's coming towards us. And I just remember, like, I have my fists clenched, and I'm kind of like putting my body forward, which is a very Aries thing to do, by the way. And Mars rules Aries naturally. But anyway, I'm projecting my body forward, and I have my fists clenched at him, and I'm yelling at him to like back off, go away. And he starts kind of like backing up a little bit and kind of going back to the shadows wherever he came from. Remember, like right off the bat, I was like, that's my Mars in the 11th house. And we kind of had a laugh about it. But it's really interesting because, you know, the people that know me know I am not confrontational at all. I don't like picking fights. I don't like get it. Well, it depends. I actually have my Mars on my descendant, and so I could get a little bit hot-headed. Your descendant is your relationship point, and so That's where my Mars comes out. But anyway, really don't like picking fights. You know, if there's any tension, I'm usually going to be the first one to be quiet or try to pacify the situation. Very Libran. You know, I'm ruled by Venus, and so I like to keep the peace. I don't like fighting for the most part. So yeah, it's just funny how that Mars showed up in that time. But I have noticed that from when I was younger to now, my Mars has really evolved. And, you know, from not being able to defend myself to, you know, finding where my courage was coming out to now, me, what I'm doing now is my Mars, me being an astrologer, me wanting to help people, you know, not going on buses and trying to save old men from getting jumped by high school kids. I'm doing this more in the back end where, you know, something that has helped me, astrology, that has really helped me live more authentically and kind of empower myself and take the driver's seat in my life, like know what it is that's going to make me happy. You know, that was a gift for me, and it's a gift that I want to give back to people. You know, people that feel like they need to put things into perspective and put those puzzle pieces of their life together, to be more fulfilled, to live more authentically, to find happiness, like true happiness, and not this happiness that is portrayed onto us by socialization. That is my Mars, my purpose. That is my purpose, and I'm standing by my purpose. That and the fact that I'm living my life that's true to me. That is what Mars is all about. Love to hear where you have your Mars, what house, what sign. Let me know in the comments, and peace and self-love.